All right, I believe the stream is live. I hit the button. So welcome everybody to the Xbox 2 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Randall419. With you as always, oh wait. Am I hearing something's in my headset? All right, hold on a second. Let me start that over. What's going on? Rand here for the Xbox 2 podcast, and with me as always, Jez Corden.
Hello.
Hi, Jez. Hopefully the podcast is live because I haven't actually seen it pop up on YouTube. This is why I hate the fact that they changed it from Google Hangouts to this. All right, finally it just showed up on YouTube. All right, so we are live. Xbox 2 podcast is live. How's everybody doing? Jez, what's going on, buddy?
Pretty good, man. How are you? I'm tired, boy. I'm back at work after having a little break. So that's been a shock to the system, but it's, good to be writing again. All that good stuff. How are you doing, pal?
I am actually doing pretty bad.
Oh, what is that?
Because
what is that, Ren?
Because you,
me,
it's this all your fault. You PayPal'd me $60 and basically told me to buy Pokemon Sword, which I did do, and now I have to go on the journey of playing Pokemon, which is something I never thought I would have to do. So I'm actually doing pretty horribly, if you ask me.
I like it. This amuses me greatly. But Rand, it's for a good cause, man. It's for a good cause because we've already raised over $600, because I'm going to match the $300. So we've raised $300. I'm going to match the $300 to $600. So we've raised $600 for charity so you can play Pokemon.
Yeah.
How cool is that? $600.
I mean, it is nice. $600 for charity is pretty good, helping the kids out there. And you know what, guys, let me know if the audio's okay. I actually had to change some settings for a previous video, the one I uploaded yesterday, and I don't really remember what the settings were, so let me know if I need to turn up Jez's voice or myself. I've kind of been tinkering around with it, so let us know if everything sounds good. But yeah, Jez, my first Pokemon game, Pokemon Sword, is the one that you told me to buy. Now, was there any reason why you told me to buy Pokemon Sword instead of Pokemon Shield?
It's because I have Pokemon Shield. So, because you have Sword and I have Shield, that means we can trade exclusive Pokemon. Because some Pokemon are only available in Sword and some Pokemon are only available in Shield. You see, Rand.
Okay. Fair enough.
People are saying I'm a bit too quiet. That might be my fault, but I also have everything turned up as much as I can send it. So Rand's gonna mess with the settings. Keep letting us know what the audio sounds like. People say I need to be higher, Rand.
Okay. I mean, you're the same level as me right now.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So Pokemon raised $600 for charity. If you want to donate and help us out any more, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat now, and we'll also put a link in the description.
Uh-oh. I think Jez must have gotten dropped from Discord or something happened. But, yeah, either way, the link there for...
oh, man. So annoying.
You getting dropped from Discord? Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Damn annoying. Okay, so basically what I was saying is, if you want to help with the charity stuff, put a link in the chat. We'll also put a link in the podcast later on. We've raised $600. I've never raised so much. I mean, I've done charity things beforehand, but I've always raised like $30 or maybe $60 or something. Never raised $600. Feels kind of good, man. Might have to force you to play games more often.
Well, there's not that many franchises that I haven't at least tried out before. Pokemon was like the one big one that I never played. Like, I played Zelda and I played Mario. I mean, you obviously know I don't really hold any special place for Nintendo in my heart. So Pokemon was that one franchise you like that I never played. So it was kind of like a perfect storm. Like, getting me to play something I've never played before. And then, of course, this version, which really made the internet upset. Really pissed off a lot of hardcore gamers. And then they didn't matter because this one sold more copies than pretty much any Pokemon ever before. I think it's like the fastest selling exclusive of this whole generation.
Sold faster. I don't think it sold more.
Sold faster. I think it sold like 6 million copies in 3 days. So how's that boycott going? How did that boycott do? Pretty good, huh? God. It's pretty ridiculous. So I don't even know if the game's good. I know my buddy Gopher's playing it. He's liking it. So when I start the game tonight, are there any tips? Is there like a Pokemon you want me to choose, Jez? Do I just go with the one that feels more natural, or just like the one that I connect to? Like, is there a specific one you want me to pick, or what?
Just choose. I can't choose your starter Pokemon for you, Rand. That is a sacred thing, my dude. So you can choose for yourself. Okay. The one that looks the cutest, the one that speaks to your soul. Pick that one.
Okay.
We want to see the tweets, man. You have to tweet your gameplay. I want to see your progress. We all want to see it, man. So make sure you follow Rand on Twitter and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you've got to turn off autosave because apparently the autosave thing can wipe your SD card. There's a bug.
Wow, that's a pretty ridiculous bug. If that's the case. So yeah, I'll be playing Pokemon, and obviously before we get into all the topics and stuff, I just want to welcome everybody to the show. I mean, we got Xbox Gamer, we got Brandon Bryce, we got King Jaquise, we got Carl and Newman, we got Axel, we got a whole bunch of people here, JD Gamers, Space Jesus. We appreciate we appreciate everybody being here on a Friday. Sorry we didn't do the show yesterday, but Jez had a visitor. Jez had a family over and he couldn't make the show, but of course we wanted to be here today. And next week, Jez, we got to talk about next week because Thanksgiving is on Thursday here in America, so we're going to have to do the show Wednesday, probably. Could we do the show Wednesday? Because we can't do it Thursday. We might be able to do it Friday, but Friday's Black Friday.
Can't do it Friday because I'm traveling.
Okay, so we're going to have to do it on Wednesday. It's either Wednesday next week or no show next week. So we'll have to do it on Wednesday.
We'll see.
Yeah, so while we're waiting for everybody to get in here, make sure you guys hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, share this out on Twitter, I don't know, Jez, before we actually get into the topics, I wanted to ask you if you've heard anything about the new YouTube disaster, the new thing that is going to destroy YouTube. Have you seen any videos? Have you heard anything about the COPPA, YouTube COPPA?
Oh, is this where you have to say whether you're making content for kids or not?
Yes. Because Google was found basically breaking a federal law for years.
Oh dear.
Oh yeah. And they basically what happened was it's a federal law that is updated every few years, and it has to do with child safety and stuff, right? Google was not supposed to collect data about minors without their parents' permission. But being Google, they collect data about everybody. So they collected data about children under the age of 13 and then targeted them with specific ads, which is illegal, which the United States government says you cannot do. So they broke laws.
Are they going to get fined?
They got fined, so they took them to court, and Google didn't fight it. They settled, and they paid the FTC a fine of $175 million. And part of the agreement was that now YouTube is passing the blame and the buck over to creators. So now creators have to adhere to this law, which of course no creator actually knew about, right? So you essentially have to mark your channel either as I make content for kids or I don't make content for kids, right? Obviously, I don't make content for kids, and I looked at my analytics, and I think I have 13 kids under the age of 13. I think my channel, like, I think a 1%, right? I think there might be like 2 kids who listen to my stuff. So like my channel's not for kids. It's like 1% of the audience or whatever. But like the way it's set up is like what is content made for kids? You know what I mean? It's incredibly vague about what type of content that is. And if the FTC sees that you marked your content not for kids, but then they watch your video and think it's for kids, which means then you're in violation of the law, they will fine you up to $42,000 for each individual video that they find you breaking the law.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so as you can see, that there's a whole bunch of videos out there from bigger creators who are like, yo, this is like, this might destroy me. Like, I need to get, lawyer, like, and it's going to affect a lot of things. Like, this past summer, remember Minecraft made a resurgence, right? PewDiePie started playing again. A lot of the bigger YouTubers started playing it again. And suddenly Minecraft was everywhere, right, Jez?
Yep.
Okay, but Minecraft is a game targeted towards kids. I think you would agree with me on that, right? Even though it's also for adults, you would say Minecraft also has something for kids.
Yes.
So now those bigger YouTubers like PewDiePie are looking at it like, well, am I going to have to mark this video about that where I'm playing Minecraft or I'm playing Roblox or I'm potentially playing something like Pokemon? Mark it for kids, which means if you mark it for kids, it gets the comment sections turned off. There are no notifications for it. They basically make it so the video's invisible. They can't run ads on it, so the video gets basically demonetized because obviously you can't serve ads to 13-year-olds. So the video's going to make 80 to 90% less money. So essentially what creators are going to do is they're just not going to play Minecraft anymore or any of these, kid-focused things because they're not going to make any money, and 2, they can get sued by the government.
Ouch.
So a lot of people thinking like this could be the end of YouTube, and this could be the way the government's going to go after YouTube is through this. So I thought it was pretty interesting. I was kind of watching some videos about it, and it's just one of those things where Google had, they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and now they're passing the buck over to content creators as they normally do. And
Google's just a garbage fire company. I mean,
oh yeah, I cannot wait. We can't wait to talk about the Stadia launch, right, Jez?
I mean, even forgetting Stadia, they're just a garbage company. And by the way, I'm having serious latency issues on Discord, so forgive me if I cut out or sound like a robot or something like that. I don't know why, but I'm just having issues on Discord for some reason right now. But YouTube's like, they've been fined in the EU for violating antitrust laws and abusing its search position to promote its own products and downgrade its competitors, and they've been fined in the US for violating all sorts of privacy laws, and they're under investigation by the US government at a federal level, even beyond this copper thing on YouTube. Google's just an awful company that operates in the Wild West and think they can get away with it, and they're not going to get away with it. And that's why, Rand, I don't want them anywhere near gaming, because they don't care about gaming or gamers. They just care about cash money.
Yeah,
cash money, baby.
Most companies do only really care about money, though, Jazz. I mean, let's not say like Microsoft or any of these other companies are angels. I mean, their objective is to make as much money as possible too.
Yeah, but at the same time, a lot of these companies realize that to make money long term, you have to not be a dick about it. Because if you're a dick about it, you'll get found out and you'll get fined, and then people will hate you, and then you won't be able to make as much money. And I think Microsoft's learnt that more than any, because Microsoft had its own antitrust issues in the 90s as well. True. So Microsoft turned it around, and now YouTube's gonna have to learn the hard way, my dude.
So let me ask you this question, Jazz. Since I'm in a Xbox channel, primarily cover Xbox news and post Xbox gameplay. Am I going to have to declare that I make content for kids with the upcoming slate of Xbox exclusive content and games they're making?
I have no idea. I have no idea, my dude.
I saw somebody say that in chat. Like, you're gonna.
I'm really glad I'm not a YouTuber, man.
I know, they're like, oh wait, Xbox is starting to make content for kids. That means you're gonna have to flag your channel, and it's like grounded. Okay, sure, I see that. And that's the other thing, because like video games are considered kids content, but they not like what video games. You know what I mean? So it's like you're kind of in that gray area. But either way, moving on from that topic, I just thought it was a big thing to talk about because it's gonna affect YouTube in a lot of different ways, and of course, people are like, YouTube screwing up, and creators need to, move on to other platforms. The problem is there isn't really another platform that does video on demand. I mean, you can go to Twitch, but that's basically just streaming. You can go to Mixer, but you'll lose pretty much your entire audience. Like Ninja and Shroud did when they made the switch, and you can stream there. It's just basically, if you want to do video on demand stuff, like YouTube is the only place. Sure, which is why, there probably needs to be a competitor, but as far as I know, YouTube has never made any money for Google. So I don't see.
It's always been about the data with YouTube. Like, it's really expensive to host video content. And YouTube, like, they basically just break even on it. And, most of these been sucked away by, like, copyright battles and all these sorts of other things. As Google tries to, muddle its way through the various laws to try and make YouTube a viable business, It's weird, It's weird.
It's weird. What's weird?
Weird.
What? What's weird? What's weird?
I was gonna say that, like, YouTube, like, is still, it's old, but it's still on the frontier of, like, internet law and stuff like that. It's still like it's still occupying that gray space where, like, laws haven't been properly locked down for it, And in a similar fashion, we don't know if this whole game streaming thing is gonna take off. And I think it's probably appropriate that we pivot over to Google Stadia now, since we're talking about Google.
Yeah, might as well talk about it. Let's talk about the Google Stadia launch. Okay, so they officially launched for people that signed up for the Founders Edition, which came with the controller. It came with 3 months of Google Stadia Pro. It also came with the Chromecast that you plug into your TV so you can play it on your big television. I think it was like $130, and it launched on the 19th, which was a couple days ago. Now, there were a lot of people out there saying that, like, I can't wait for this. I can't wait to see what the launch lineup is. And Google obviously came out with the launch lineup of 12 games. 12 old games. The only new game there was Guilt, which was an exclusive for Stadia by Tequila Works, but I'm pretty sure that's a timed exclusive. The other games that launched with it were stuff like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Mortal Kombat 11 and 3 Tomb Raider games and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right? But then Microsoft put on their show at XO19, and they're like, we got 50 new games, or 50 games coming to xCloud Preview for free. And then suddenly the next day, Google's like, yo, our launch lineup's now 22. Like, okay, so we got 10 more games. None of them really new. So obviously Google was like, we have a bunch of games ready to go that we were going to basically string along for a long time, just kind of drop feed stuff. And they're like, we can't launch with 12, not with Xbox showing us up. So then they went and they were like, we're going to move these 10 that we had planned on drip feeding to the end of the year, and we're going to move them up to launch. So now there's 22. But of course, you listen to some YouTubers and some people out there that were really high on Stadia, they were like, there's no way these games are going to be full price. There's no way. And of course, when it came out, the games were full price. Because why wouldn't they be? Like, if you have any sense of logic in your brain, you would know that these publishers are going to sell these games at full price, regardless no matter how old they are. So you had Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a year old that you could find $40 on Xbox. And it's not really about Red Dead because that game is, doesn't really drop price, but that was $60. You had stuff like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which came out last year.
Actually, Red Dead is on sale right now on Xbox. So if you
right,
I
think it's on sale for like $40. But I mean, it just also came out for PC full price, right? Like a month before that. But you had like Shadow of the Tomb Raider a month before, or a year. It came out last year, $60. Odyssey, $60. Like all the games that basically came out for Stadia, except for there was a couple that had Stadia Pro discounts, were all full price. And I sat there thinking to myself, who is Stadia for? I still don't understand who their target demographic is. Especially when you're launching with old ass games. It's basically standing in front of a used GameStop aisle and being like, this is Google Stadia, except I don't own a box and I'm relying on the internet and I gotta pay full price for all this stuff instead of paying used prices for it. And people started to get pissed off. So like, you know what? I'm canceling my pre-order, and then the people who didn't cancel their pre-orders, some either like their controller didn't come with it, or their activation code didn't come with it.
This is from Windows Central. Like one of our writers bought it, and Google sent him the wrong kind of cable. Like they sent him a USB-A cable instead of a USB-C cable, and you can't play it without a USB-C cable. So, GG. Like, what is this half-assed product launch? Like, this is bad. Even for Google standards, this is pretty bad.
So some guy says the regular prices for those games are full prices on other systems too. Maybe at the time they came out, but certainly not anymore. Like you can get Shadow of the Tomb Raider for like $25 on the Xbox, and it's been on sale a whole bunch of different times. Like all those games that are launching on Stadia have been on sale multitude of times on PlayStation and Xbox.
And you can get them on, if you want to get them physically on Amazon, you can get them even cheaper.
Yeah. So it just is this situation where I look at it and I'm like, okay, so Stadia is not for the hardcore PC gamer because they never give up their rig, right, Jez? Their $3,000 gaming rig that makes them the master race. And as Adam says in the super chat, it's for suckers and dumb parents, which I guess is a possibility, right? There's parents out there. Yeah, there's a group of people out there who are, parents are probably like, my kid wants the latest Fortnite or whatever the next big game would be, but I don't want to spend $200 or $300 or $400. And they'd be like, well, Stadia, you don't need a console. So I guess that's the pitch. So yeah, it's basically for uninformed people or younger generation who who haven't bought into an ecosystem. Like Jez has talked about all the time, and I have too, about like being locked into an ecosystem. Like Jez is locked into the Xbox ecosystem. I'm locked into the Xbox ecosystem. Even though I have a PlayStation, I think I've bought like 40 games on PlayStation, mainly exclusives. Like I own everything on Xbox. So for me, I couldn't imagine myself getting Stadia unless it was for exclusive Stadia games that their first party had made or that they bought time exclusivity for. Because honestly, I'm not interested in playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider or Red Dead Redemption 2 or Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You want to know why? I played those games last year. As most people have. So when I look at Google Stadia, I'm just like, I don't get it. It must be for like casual PC gamers and just casual gamers in general who are just like, you know what, this could be my new thing. Or maybe people whose only console's the Switch. Maybe that's the play, Jez. I
think it's also like for it's also for their Chromebook devices, like their Chromebook laptops and stuff. There are people, mainly in the US, who literally only have a Chromebook. And, maybe they see all these games and they just think like, I don't want to have a dedicated console. I don't want to have to deal with all that complicated stuff, blah 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 blah. And for them, if they've got a book but they're maybe interested in dabbling in gaming, Stadia is a great choice for them because it doesn't require any setup. They can just basically load it up like Netflix and just play it straight through their Chromebook, which doesn't even have a GPU, like a a real GPU. So for them, Stadia could be a cool proposition, and at that point, it's like new gamers, right? Potentially new gamers. And one thing I've seen is that they're trying to market Stadia to women a lot,
Yeah.
like because they are trying to hook in that audience, you know. And they're trying to find like their casual audience that is probably on a Chromebook as well. So I don't think Google's under any delusion that this is going to take over Xbox and PlayStation and PC and Nintendo Switch. I don't think they're under any delusion about that. And maybe some of their marketing practices can hint at the idea that they're trying to do something a little bit different, maybe go after a different market and stuff like that. And I can see it being viable in some situations. But, you know, change the game, revolutionize gaming? I don't think so. I think, like, this is just going to be like some sort of side project, something that they can say like, oh look, you don't need a Windows PC because you can get a Chromebook and it has all these games that you can stream, blah blah blah. It helps their Chromebook platform more than anything, which is you know, something that they actually genuinely do want to compete with Windows on, because a lot of people don't need a full Windows laptop, you know. A lot of people don't need a Razer Blade 15 that costs, you know, $2,000. They can just get a cheap Chromebook and stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, also like some of the more interesting features of Stadia weren't even ready. Like the idea of watching a video on YouTube and then immediately being playing it is not there. Like you need your phone to buy games, which is it
Yeah.
doesn't really. And I don't know if you saw, but people, you know, website had basically said that like that app had been downloaded 175,000 times. The app that you absolutely 100% needed to get Stadia up and running, but was free to everybody. So you know, someone like me could download, or someone like you. But since you needed it, it's also kind of gives you an idea of like how many people actually bought Stadia. And even though it's free, like, so the most it could possibly be is 175,000 people, and since it's free, it's probably way even less than that.
Wow.
It only works on what, Google Pixel phones, so they don't even have like a lot of mobile phones. I think you need that Chromecast to be able to actually work it on your TV. So it's basically they're saying it's a launch, but it's essentially an early beta. It's just a beta test. It's basically what Microsoft is doing with xCloud, but they just wanted
they're
it.
charging money for it.
Yeah, now, but they're just charging money. They wanted it to be out first, which I'm not even sure why. It's just there's the question I had is like, if people really get turned off by game streaming, even though a lot of the reviews did say Stadia's technology is impressive and they could see it working, it just needs more time. People really just didn't like the idea of the fact that it didn't have a lot of content. If people kind of turn their backs on streaming, or if Google's so bad, Stadia's so bad that it kind of poisons the well of game streaming, do you think that is going to affect xCloud at all? And do you think Microsoft is worried about public perception turning negative about game streaming before they fully get xCloud out there?
No, and I think like one of the smart things Microsoft and PlayStation actually have done is bill it as a complementary experience rather than, you know, an all-in exclusive experience. I think like there will be a time when they will want to say like, look, you can use xCloud as your primary gaming solution, but I think that's going to be when they start putting it on lower end PC, because Microsoft is working heavily with Qualcomm to make these sort of cheaper ARM based laptops that can't run games. They can only run Office and web browsers and stuff like that. But something like xCloud would make those cheaper laptops a more viable gaming proposition if they can stream a real game, like the Chromebook situation, you know. So I think like I don't think this affects anything. And like you say, if only 175,000 people at most have downloaded it, chances are the wider market doesn't even know Stadia exists.
So
It's just one of those sort of ephemeral things that they might have seen a headline about, but they don't actually know really what it is.
yeah,
And
so
like you say,
basically,
it's like a beta. It's not. It's
yeah.
Google's not really pushed that. See, this is like those fundamental mistakes which Microsoft made in 2013, which Sony made when they released the PS3, those fundamental mistakes seem to like be chasing Phil Harrison,
He's 3 for 3,
like,
man. 3 for 3 in product launches. Great product launches.
Microsoft set xCloud as an early access beta. They made it free to test, and they're not trying to claim it's a finished product. And it's already better than Stadia, arguably. And the big mistake that Google's making is that they're trying to claim this as a finished product, and they've sent review units out to technology websites and YouTubes and stuff. Review units. You don't do that unless the product's finished. This is not a finished product. Half the features aren't there. The assembly line doesn't even seem to be polished and finished if they're sending the wrong cables out to people and stuff like that. It just screams of, poor planning and bad execution.
All right, let me ask you this question. I do think for what Stadia is offering, the reviews weren't that bad, right? And Microsoft is getting a fair bit of advertising for, like QV Vampire says. It says Google Stadia is giving xCloud free advertising and free press. Every time I saw a Google review on YouTube, people say xCloud is better. So there is some of that, right? But the question I have is that, let's imagine, hypothetically, next year, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Scarlett come out. And they launch with 12 old games. And that's all you could play day one. Well, 22. Let's just say 22. 22 old games. And that's all you could play. And the only new game they had was maybe a smaller indie title. You mean to tell me that people wouldn't be furious? Like, I feel like almost Google's getting off a little bit easier here because there isn't a $500 box or a $400 box, that people are looking at it more like this is a work in progress, where if Sony or Microsoft came out with a system that you bought and had 20 games and they were old, there'd be riots in the streets. Right?
Yep.
So I feel like Google's kind of getting off light here by saying, well, this is just it's an experiment. It's a work in progress. Like, the real launch is next year. But if Microsoft or Sony did this, they would be crucified. People would be like, you don't, like, this is unacceptable. Whatever they're doing, which is obviously why that's not going to happen, because both systems will definitely have a huge backwards compatibility lineup, as well as like all the games, new games launching at that time. I did kind of notice that. I was like, man, imagine if this was just PS5 and Xbox, how much different the rhetoric would be, because a lot of people are like, hey, Stadia's okay, the tech's good, but you might want to wait on it. If it was the other two consoles, people would be like, never buy this. It'd be a much different story out there on YouTube and on the reviews. But Jez, there is something I wanted to talk about since we started the show talking about Pokemon and then Google and the Copa and then right into the Google Stadia launch. I wanted to talk briefly about Star Wars.
Star Wars?
I beat Star Wars. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
You beat it? On what difficulty?
I beat it on Jedi Master.
Is that...
That's
normal?
The second highest. Like, Jedi Grandmaster's the highest, then Jedi Master, and then Jedi Knight, and then Story Mode. I just wanted to say, like, tell the people out there that were listening, I loved Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Once again, Respawn didn't let me down. They've never let me down. They will never let me down. They make such quality games. Just look at this gen. They came out with 3 new IPs and killed it. Titanfall, Apex Legends, Star Wars. I mean, I guess you can classify Star Wars as a really new IP, but 4 games this generation, all fantastic. And this is Star Wars via Dark Souls. It's basically Sekiro meets Uncharted meets Metroid. I think I put about 25 hours into the title. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I loved pretty much everything about this game, man. Like the world, the setting, the characters, the combat, very much like Sekiro. The only thing maybe I would critique the game on is like it has some janky animations. You kind of go back to some of the planets more often than I would like. A lot of backtracking. But I gotta say, and this is kind of where I'm gonna shift into the fact that it's not nominated for Game of the Year or have any nominations for the Game Awards is disheartening.
It's because I think it missed the cutoff date, though.
Well, no, see, it launched at the cutoff date. So the cutoff date was November 15th, and it launched on there, but apparently not all amount of, like, the websites had enough, access to it to be able to properly review it and put it together in the reviews, so it's not, nobody voted for it or whatever. It couldn't make it to any nominations for this year, but they could nominate it for next year. However, that's not going to happen because people are going to forget about it. And then you already have games announced for next year like Last of Us Part 2 and Ori, Halo Infinite, Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and all the all the unannounced games that are basically going to be vying for all the awards too. So it's like Star Wars Jedi just came out at this moment where it's like people really like it. I've seen a lot of positive talk about it, and I think it should 100% be in the Game of the Year discussion. It's just, I don't know, releasing this dead zone where it couldn't, and that's why I want to talk about the Game Awards next, because
Ren, like we're doing Windows Central's Game Awards for December as well, and not enough people. I mean, even now, like not enough people on Windows Central have played it either. It's just such a busy time. I haven't touched it yet myself. And it came out at the same time as Pokemon, and like half of our writers are playing Pokemon, not Jedi. It just launched at I think they should like maybe push Game Awards back further into December, so you can get some of those November games in more. And then it's just like. It's just tough to find a good time to start picking these things, I guess.
Yeah.
They do the Oscars in like... When do they do the Oscars? In spring?
I think they do the Oscars in like March, I think. Yeah. For the stuff in the previous year. But I mean,
maybe
obviously...
they should do that for Game Awards.
Here's the thing. Obviously, the Game Awards is in December. Why is it in December? Because that's when everybody's advertising. That's when the advertising rates are really high. So if you held it until the beginning of the year, ad rates plummet. Like I'm not saying that's like the reason why it's in December, but that does have a factor. We do have a question for Spider-Man in the Super Chat. He says, has there been a game you wanted to play but waited to see if it come to Game Pass? For me, I waited to buy Darksiders 3 in hopes to come to Game Pass, and it did. Actually, no. If I want to play a game, I'll get the game. I've never really thought like, well, I'll get it later when it comes to Game Pass. I'm sure you probably are the same too, right, Jez? Like, if you wanted to play something, you'll just play it. You'll just get it. I know that's how it is for me.
I'm kind of lucky to be in a position where I have, disposable income, or, I might get a review copy or something like that. But I think like if I was still in my old job, and I think I probably would wait for Game Pass a lot more than I have done.
Yeah.
I do that with TV shows a lot, or movies. I often just wait for them to either come on the Microsoft Store so I can rent them, or wait for them to hit Netflix or something like that. I don't go to the cinema or whatever.
Well, yeah. So that like for movies, I'll go out to the show a couple times a year. But I'll wait for it to hit, rental services like on my Comcast or whatever. Even when like places put out like an individual episode a week, I'll usually wait for them all to be done before I watch it. With Game Pass, though, I'm kind of like Jez. I'm in a unique position where companies will send me review codes, so I'll get it right away. But mainly because I love video games, right? I look forward to a lot of them. So like when Star Wars comes out, I don't want to sit there and be like, I'm going to wait for this to hit a subscription service down the road. And I'm not saying or talking down on people that do, because I know everybody's financial situations are completely different. So to me, I'm like, I want to play that game day one. I will pay the money for it to play day one. But I understand people that are like, hey, Darksiders 3 looks pretty cool. I don't want to spend $60 for it. And I understand that. I'll wait until maybe it's on sale or it comes to Game Pass. Like, I understand that mindset. And Xbox has kind of been training people a little bit to actually do that, Jez, with all the great deals on Game Pass that they're offering. Of course, people are going to be like, you know what, I'm going to wait and see if this game is going to come to Game Pass. Why spend $40 now when I can maybe wait and play other things that are coming, right?
Indeed.
But back to the Game Awards, as Jeff Keighley is calling on my phone. He doesn't want us to talk about this because we're about to expose the Game Awards, right, Jez?
Game Awards
exposed. So they put out their list of all the nominations, and Game of the Year, I had picked 5 of the 6 right. Because honestly, I thought this year was pretty easy to predict what games the media would pick for Game of the Year, right? And as JD Gamer says in the super chat, forget Jeff Keighley's award show, the Kojima award show. It is compromised and has no credibility. Windows Central should host a Game Award show. We'll be talking about that right here, so don't worry. The nominations were Sekiro, Resident Evil 2, The Outer Worlds, Death Stranding, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Control, right? Now, Death Stranding also led all nominations, or all games with nominations, at 10. And I think second was Control at 8. And Microsoft's Gears 5 only, I believe, received 1 nomination, which was for Best Action Game. And it didn't even receive a nomination for Best Multiplayer, Jez, which is presumably the focus on where... like people talk about, Gears, what's the focus? And they talk, is it single player, multiplayer? For me, it's single player, but I think for the majority of people, it's multiplayer. It didn't even get a nomination for best multiplayer. In fact, Tetris 99 got a nomination over Gears 5 for the multiplayer.
I actually agree with that.
Which, of course, has made a lot of memes. So,
I actually agree with that, though. I agree with that.
You agree with that? Well, here's the thing.
I agree with that.
Like the Gears multiplayer had a lot of issues at launch, and I doubt any of those journalists actually play Gears multiplayer for very long, so I'm not really surprised. But of course, the big topic is basically it's 2 things. One, Gears got snubbed, Xbox gets snubbed again. That's horrible, that's an atrocity, and all these different adjectives you'd use to describe it, whatever. Do I think Gears 5 should be nominated for Game of the Year? Yeah, I do. I do. I played pretty much all the games that are nominated, except for Super Smash Bros., so I really don't have an opinion on there. I will say, though, it's highly rated, and people talk about it as it's amazing, so if I were to drop a game from that list... I dropped Control, because I think Gears is better than Control. So my Game of the Year list would look something like Sekiro, Resident Evil, Outer Worlds, Death Stranding, Super Smash Bros., and
Goose Game.
Gears. Obviously, that's not my top 5.
Wait.
I'm just saying that's what I... What?
What about Goose Game?
No, I haven't... No Goose Game. No Goose
Come
Game,
on,
right?
Goose Game. Untitled Goose Game. Game of the Year Goose Game.
No. So there was that aspect. A lot of Xbox fans were upset. They see that as a snub that, Gears didn't get a nomination other than the multiplayer. And I think Kate Bailey also got nominated for voice actress, which she did a really good job in that category. But of course, I think the bigger issue for a lot of people was, and that's why I put it up in the title, the controversy surrounding Jeff Keighley and Kojima's relationship, which is extended for years. And Death Stranding has been featured at the Game Awards pretty much every single year. I remember when Jeff Keighley cried about Kojima because Konami wouldn't let him be there. And Keighley's in Death Stranding as a cameo. So a lot of people took these things and assumed Jeff somehow, made it made it be that Death Stranding received all these nominations, and that there's this big conspiracy to make Death Stranding Game of the Year, and a lot of people looking at that are like, "This is bullshit. I will not stand for this. How could this be allowed to happen?" Now it's interesting because when we were talking about this before the show, you did have something interesting to tell me about it when I was asking your thoughts. So what do you think about the whole thing? Laura Bailey, as I was just corrected in chat, she is the voice of Kate in Gears 5. She was nominated. What do you think about this whole thing, Jez? Do you think people are right to look at Jeff Keighley, who hosts the show, and see his friend Kojima get all these nominations? Do you think there's people are right to kind of question the integrity of the Game Awards?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to note what you noted to me earlier, is that Jeff and his team have no say in the nominations, and they have no say in who wins. It's actually a panel of several dozens of websites, blah blah blah, and they pick. You can see the panel on the website. They're the ones who pick and stuff like that. However,
oh, that's going to be a big however. I feel it coming.
Big however. If Jeff Keighley wants to bring credibility to his award show, if he wants it to be the Oscars of the gaming industry, he needs to take it a little bit more seriously. Because at the moment, he's basically just using it as a platform to forward himself. And you don't associate the Oscars with any one person. It's the Oscars, and the games are the star of the show. Jeff Keighley is the star of the Game Awards, and that's the way he's made it that way. If there's controversy about by association, I haven't played Death Stranding. It may well deserve Game of the Year. If I just from watching the gameplay and from talking to people about it, I would probably imagine that I'm the kind of person who would say Death Stranding's Game of the Year, and I love Kojima's work. However, it's the relationship between Jeff Keighley and Kojima does bring it into disrepute. And if he wants it to be seen as a mature Game Awards show, he needs to take a step back and let the games be the hero of the show. He needs to let the games be the hero. He needs to take a step back, because at the moment it's the Jeff Keighley show. And you could argue that even the people nominating associate the Game Awards with Kojima and Jeff Keighley, and it's just a bit weird. It's just a bit weird that he's in the game. It's his award show, and Death Stranding's probably gonna win, and it's unfair to Kojima, because Kojima may well deserve Game of the Year award, but there's always going to be this sort of weirdness now. It's going to be weird.
Here's the thing.
No.
I think it's only weird for people that want there to be an issue, because I don't think there's any issue at all. I don't think there's a controversy, period.
Well,
I think uneducated people are saying there is. When you actually look into the topic about how the games are nominated and who votes on the games, there's no issue whatsoever. I mean, sure, like I said to you earlier, if this was Jeff Keighley's
PR though, it's basic PR.
Sure,
it's about managing the masses.
Sure.
And I'm sure that there are a lot of salty Xbox fans,
yes,
who are using this as a platform to express their salt that Death Stranding isn't on Xbox. There's going to be a lot of that salt. But at the same time, I think you could flip this on its head. You could say it about any platform or any situation. It would be called into question in any situation. I think it'd always just seem a bit weird. It's weird when I have refused to review games that I have a personal relationship with. For example, what's that game called now? Raging Justice. Raging Justice, that side-scrolling indie beat 'em up.
Yes.
Before I was blogging for a career, I built a relationship with the developer of that game, and he put me in the game as an enemy. You can go into play Raging Justice on Xbox and beat me up if you want. I'm an enemy in that game. So I refused to review the game because it might color it's not going to color my opinion of the game, because I personally, honestly, I don't care that I'm in the game, but like I understand that other people aren't going to see it that way. So I have to take a step back and let the game shine for itself and not bring that disrepute to the game, because it's unfair to the creator. That's the way I see it. And that's a small indie game on a small platform that I'm making that consideration that I won't review a game of someone that I have even the vaguest of relationship with. So I don't know. Personally, I just think it's about managing expectations, and it's about being mature and understanding that PR is PR, you know?
Right, and I understand a lot of people look at appearances and they'll judge everything about it. Oh, Kojima's on the advisory board. He's friends with Jeff Keighley. It's Jeff Keighley's show. Therefore, Kojima, that's why Death Stranding is going to win and why it has the most nominations. Like, if you just took a cursory look at it, right? That's the conclusion you would be drawn to. And I would agree with those people if this was Jeff Keighley's Game of the Awards. Like, if this was his personal thing, and he personally voted on it, I would agree. You'd have a case to be made. Be like, well, this is bull, because it's your award show. You're voting on it. You're picking the nominees, and Kojima just happens to be your BFF, and he's on the board. Like, you'd have a case to be made. But of course, the devil's always in the details, is it not, Jez? It's always in the details. Now, personally, for this to remain, Jeff should probably, the show shouldn't really be about Jeff Keighley. I agree with you on that. There should be a celebration of the Game Awards, but he is like the spokesperson of it. And because he's such good friends with with Kojima, and he's in the game, people will always kind of use that against Death Stranding if it wins. But then when you look, and it's like, well, okay, we look at that.
It's not fair to Kojima.
You look at the advisory board. Who's on it? You got Lisa Su from AMD. Phil Spencer is on the board from Microsoft. Sony's on the board. Doug Bowser from Nintendo's on the board. You have basically all, like, the head of EA's on the board. So it's like, so did Gears get nominated because Phil's on the board? Are they trying to make Phil happy? Is Death Stranding nominated, or any of these other Sony games? Did God of War win last year because Sony's on the board? You could basically make an argument for any of these things. Like, all these big companies are in the board, and it's like, are they just basically, is Jeff appealing to these people by nominating their games? And if you didn't know how the system worked, you'd be like, well, yeah, that makes the most sense. But then you look and it's like a section on their website, like, these are the people that nominate the games, and these are the people that vote on it. And it's a collection of 80 websites from across the world. Websites like IGN and GameSpot and Kind of Funny Games and Polygon and all these other places. And it's not just US-based websites. It's basically all the different websites, Brazil, Argentina, French, Spanish websites. So it's like, when you actually burrow down into the details of the situation, it's like you realize that no, that's not the case. It's just that these websites who have already reviewed all these games are also making the lists and the nominations for Game of the Year. So I don't know. I think it's all just a bunch of people just complaining to complain. Now, I know a lot of people don't.
When you drill down into it, like, there's no issue, there's no issue whatsoever. But you have to drill down into it. Most people can't be bothered to drill down into it, They can't be bothered, or they don't have time, or whatever,
Right.
So I think, like, managing the people who can't be bothered is part of Jeff Keighley's job, and he's not done a good job of it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
It kind of reared its head this year because of Kojima, and there's something to be said also for Famitsu, like the 40 out of 40 it received, and the guy who used to work at Famitsu's in the game and all that stuff. I mean, there are things you can toss at Kojima and Death Stranding, but I'm not sure like the nomination for this is one of those things that you can. It did get a bunch of, like, it's got the most 100 perfect reviews this year. Sure, there are some websites that didn't like it, but I think when they set out their list, like they list like the 5 or 7 games or whatever, they send it in and it gets tallied up, and these are things like Death Stranding was highly rated. I mean, sure, you can look at the Metacritic and say it's an 83, and if Death Stranding does win, it'll be the lowest Metacritic scored game to win Game of the Year since like forever. I mean, I don't know. I like Death Stranding. Like, if Death Stranding wins Game of the Year, I don't have an issue with it winning. I don't have an issue with Sekiro winning or Resident Evil 2. Would I care if Super Smash Brothers won? No, I wouldn't. If The Outer Worlds won, would I care? No. Now, if Control won, I don't see my issue isn't with Death Stranding. My issue is with Control, because I liked Control, but I don't think Control is worthy of any of the nominations it got. I don't think Control's that good of a game.
Control winning a nomination almost feels like sympathy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Remedy, here you go. I honestly, I did like Control, but I look at that and I'm like, man, 8 nominations for Game of the Year? Nah, man. Like, I don't see it. I do not see it.
See, Randy, it's a damn shame that Pokemon released in that dead zone, my friend. Because we all know, really, Pokemon should be Game of the Year.
Yeah, Pokemon should be.
We all know that, right?
Yeah, Pokemon should be Game of the Year. So Jez, moving on from the Game Awards thing, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more whenever.
Like I will say, Rand, by the way, that people are mad that Gears 5 wasn't nominated, but and people call Windows Central biased towards Microsoft and stuff like that, but. The way we do the Game Awards internally at Windows Central is that all the gaming writers vote on what they want to pick, and Gears 5 wasn't nominated from us either.
Really?
I don't think it pushed the boat out enough, personally. And like if you look at the multiplayer, like it's full of microtransactions, and the whole progression can be circumvented with money. I don't think Gears 5 deserves Game of the Year. Personally.
Well, currently my Game of the Year is still Sekiro. So that's my Game of the Year. It's the one I hope. It's the one I am rooting for to win at the VGAs. I like Sekiro the most, but I like Gears 5 a lot, and Gears 5 is definitely in my top 5 of the year for sure. But so's Death Stranding. I wouldn't have an issue with Death Stranding winning. I actually beat the game. Instead of a lot of people who've, one, never played it, so don't know what it's like, or two, have played it and are all stuck in episode 3, but somehow are still talking about Death Stranding every single day on Twitter like it's their freaking job, and they haven't even finished it yet. Like, I
can't wait to play it. Like, it seems to be so polarized. But like, I'm familiar with Kojima's work, so I just feel like it's the game that I like. But I enjoyed Gears 5 a lot, but it didn't blow my mind in any sort of way. It was just like a rock solid. It was just a rock solid game and a step in the right direction, but it was only a step. It wasn't a leap. They could have gone way further with all of that stuff. Like, it all felt rudimentary. Like, the open world stuff was rudimentary. The RPG mechanics were really rudimentary. It was like they were too scared to really push it out all the way, in that direction. So I don't think it deserves Game of the Year, because it just feels tepid. It feels safe.
Well, also, it's like Devil May Cry.
Death Stranding ain't safe.
You going by like Metacritic, Devil May Cry 5 is like one of the highest games of the year. It's like an 88 or an 89 on Meta, and that one basically didn't get any nominations. So
that's a shame too. I don't know.
The Friendly Blue Shell and Super Chat says, if Control is a candidate for Game of the Year, then Gears 5 should have been. That's what I like Control, but I would swap out Control for Gears 5.
What about Pokemon, man? Come on.
We'll see about Pokemon. I'm honestly going to give. I'm going to play with an open mind as I do all my games. I'm just let me have a little bit of fun here, saying how much I want to die, because I have to play Pokemon. let me just kind of have that moment.
I think you see, we talk about Pokemon. Like, I have no idea how much of my enjoyment of Pokemon comes from nostalgia, because I've played every single game. I was part of that whole wave, man. That whole trend as a kid, coming to school with your Pokemon cards, trading the cards, printing off fake cards and laminating them in the IT room, and saying to younger kids, "Oh, these are super rare cards from Japan," and then trading away their shinies for it. I mean, other people did that. I'm not that mean, but I was part of that whole culture, man. And so like every Pokemon game for me is like nostalgia. I have no idea if you're gonna enjoy it because you don't have any nostalgia for it. So I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to Xbox Scarlett and xCloud. So there's a couple nuggets information that came out here about these things, right? One being that currently xCloud, which Jez you love, right? You love xCloud. Jez is trying to get me to like
I do.
make this thing where I could play games in my bed with this whatever contraption that Jez made. Like,
Oh my god, you should see it, man. I bought like this arm. It's actually for iPads, but like it's like an arm, and I've stuck it to my bed, and I can like angle a phone directly above my face, or angle my Nintendo Switch, and just play xCloud staring at the ceiling. It's amazing. So I was playing like Civ in bed with like a milkshake, and I was thinking, God, this is literally the future.
yeah. Shout out to friendly neighborhood Blue Shell again. He says for Rand playing Pokemon. Thanks for the super chat, buddy.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah. Microsoft also said, during the interviews at XO that Scarlett will eventually replace the S in the server racks for xCloud, right?
That's good.
Which is a big thing, and that is one thing Stadia has over xCloud right now, Jez. It was that Stadia can do 4K.
Theoretically
can do 4K, but because the server clouds for xCloud are built on a stack of Xbox S's, Xbox One S's, you basically can't. And honestly, like playing games on the go from a console that is 7 years old at this point, that a lot of these games we're getting now, like as much as I love Star Wars, there are some performance issues. There's performance issues with Control. There are performance issues in a lot of games that are coming out lately. It's like, I really don't want to like take my game on the go and then be streaming from an S. Like, what about Scarlett? But they did say, yeah, Scarlett will be switched out or switched in, at some point. When do you think that'll happen, Jez? When do you think they'll upgrade the servers with Scarlett? A year after Scarlett's out? Because I would assume like the units that they could produce would be out for the public to buy, and at some point they would just kind of transition ones into.
I think it'll be a while.
You think it'll be a while?
I think it'll be a while because there are a few advantages to having 1080p. I mean, first of all, obviously, is bandwidth. If you're streaming at 1080p or 720 even, then you're using less bandwidth, and it's less intensive on data caps, and it's less intensive on latency and stuff like that. So like to really get the full power out of Google Stadia, which is streaming 4K, you need a monstrous ISP connection, and even then you're still depending on the quality of service that comes from Google. And Digital Foundry analysis is that it can't be done. So it is what it is. So for the time being, I think 1080p is fine. And also, if you're playing on a small screen, you can't really tell the difference between 4K and 1080 anyway. Like games just look good at 1080p on a 5-6 inch screen. It's when it's coming up to larger displays like laptops and stuff where you'd really want to have higher resolution. So I don't think there's any rush really to get Scarlett in there, personally. But they don't want to leave it too late, I guess. I suppose they can do it after xCloud has launched proper and stuff like that. But I think they've got time, is basically what I'm saying.
Okay. I mean, I do think they need to get that in there sooner rather than later. I don't think they have years. Like, I don't want to be 2023 and people like, well, Microsoft's finally getting down to replacing the old ass Xbox One S blades with Scarlett blades, right? Like, I think that's a little bit too late at that point. Like, I think it needs to be maybe a year after Scarlett's out. But the other bit of interesting news that I really wanted to talk to you about was the report that came out that said xCloud could or may have exclusives at some point in the future.
I've already got thoughts on this.
Okay, what are your thoughts? And I'll give you mine. What do you think they mean by exclusives?
I think basically they're not really talking about like a Halo or something like that. They're talking about a game like maybe 1 versus 100 or some kind of like massive cloud sort of game that would have to be played online anyway. Some online game, some free online game. Like, like Tetris 99. Tetris 99, which is awesome, by the way, on the Nintendo Switch. That's exclusive to Nintendo Online. So, like, I think something like that, which is like cloud-based multiplayer, like 1 versus 100, which people keep clamoring for. I never played it myself. Did you ever play that?
Yes, 1 versus 100 was fantastic. Like I never understood why Microsoft didn't ever bring it back or something along those lines to talk about like a social event at Xbox Live. They talk about all that stuff, but I know they had the perfect thing, and it was so good. Like 1 versus 100 was amazing. And
that's the kind of game I expect to be exclusive on xCloud. Something like Tetris 99 or 1 versus 100, like some online game, asynchronous, casual multiplayer game. That's what I think they're talking about.
I don't even think that's what they really mean.
What do you think they mean?
I think it either means mobile games, like something like Gears Pop, but only available through like streaming on that, which I don't even think is realistically. So I don't even think it means that. I think what they're talking about isn't like, you'll be able to like this game, say for instance, Halo Finite 1. Like say there's a Halo spinoff coming. It's called Halo Finite. And the only way to play it is Halo Finite, right? It's just this new game coming from 343. And the only way to play it is on xCloud. Like, that's what people think. When they think, Microsoft is going to allow them to make exclusive games for xCloud, that's what it's going to be. Like, the game, you're only going to be able to play it streaming, whether it's on your phone or mobile or on your PC, and it's going to be this game that's not available anywhere else. But that's not the case. You see, to me, when I read that interview and I'm looking at the quotes and I'm thinking about what Microsoft might potentially be doing, I think it's more what we thought Stadia was going to do, like with Guilt, where the streaming home for this game is xCloud. And it's exclusive to xCloud. We're like the streaming version of the game. So like Halo, Finite comes out, the streaming, the only place you could stream it is xCloud. Like, that's what I think they're talking about. Like, the game's available on the Xbox console, the game's available on PlayStation, but this version is the only version allowed to be streaming, and it's exclusive to xCloud. That's what I think they're talking about here. But the bigger problem here is, as it always is Xbox's marketing and messaging. Because they go out and give these interviews, and you get articles like this. So with really no explanation. It's just like, so to me it's like, why are they even giving this answer out? Because now people are like, they're starting to get into xCloud, they like it. But then here you have Kareem Chowdhury already giving an answer being like, hey, well, yeah, we would like exclusives, but we haven't really thought about that. It's like, so now people are getting their minds like, well, wait a minute, exclusives? Like, I don't want streaming exclusives. And Microsoft's been pretty good about saying how there's really not going to be any Game Pass exclusives because people are worried about a game only launching in Game Pass. And they've kind of always said the right thing to that. And now they're like saying, well, yeah, exclusives to xCloud. So now you have people thinking about this, potentially spreading FUD and misinformation about, like xCloud's going to have exclusives, but the Xbox can't even have exclusives and stuff like that. So it's like, to me, I start looking at it like once again, the messaging and their marketing and all this stuff is coming up to bite them in the ass, because I don't believe for a second it means what people think it means. It just means like, hey, Assassin's Creed Ragnarok is out. The only place you can stream it is through xCloud, and that's the deal we made with you know, it honestly, it's kind of like, I'll liken it to this. You have Matt Booty on stage, and Matt Booty goes, hey, at XO19, and he's like, yo, by the way, like, we're kind of we're changing our mindset from acquisition and growth to now we're gonna execute. We're gonna deliver on the games that these studios are making, right? And everybody's like, and all the articles that came out as people were writing about it was like, Xbox is done. They're finished making acquisitions. You know, strike them off the list. They're not making any more. They're not buying any new studios. And then 2 hours later, you get an interview with Phil somewhere else, and he's like, no, we're not done. No, we're still looking. So it's like, well, what's the answer here? So I see this happen all the time. I saw it happen at the beginning of the generation with answers to, you know, questions to DRM and all, how would this work and what's like this and what's this. They always just give like these conflicting answers. And now you have this thing with xCloud. And now people are thinking there's going to be exclusives. And you can't even get exclusives on Xbox. But then it's not even... I don't know. It's one of those things where he shouldn't even said it. Because who knows if it actually happened. And then maybe he should have clarified and be like, listen, we're not saying like this game is only going to be playable on xCloud and nowhere else. Like maybe just the streaming rights to it. You know? Like that's kind of like my take on this whole thing. What do you think? I mean, maybe in the ballpark here?
The problem is, it's like, it's not really a marketing thing. When they're at an event and they're doing live interviews, they do have a PR person sitting there, but generally they're allowed to just sort of give their opinion on things, or, you know, say what they're thinking and stuff like that. Most likely is that discussions are ongoing and they haven't arrived at a particular mindset yet. Like maybe Matt Booty's opinion is we don't need to acquire more studios. Maybe Phil Spencer's opinion is maybe we do need to acquire more studios. And maybe Kareem Chowdhury's opinion is to grow Stadia, we probably do need exclusives. You know, it's probably like, this isn't marketing really, because it's not like they're putting it on a billboard. It's only the hardcore hearing this message, and only we're talking about it. It's not like they're putting it out there on a billboard saying, yeah, xCloud's going to have all these exclusives. Like, there isn't a single ad for xCloud that talks about that. And I actually just saw the first ever ad for xCloud while I was scrolling through Twitter just now. There's Microsoft is promoting a tweet that says, try Project xCloud, 50 games for free. It doesn't say anything about exclusive. So I think it's just the issue with like Microsoft having a more open approach to talking sometimes. And you know, the XO event was pretty open, and we got like so many interviews done with those guys, and they're pretty frank and upfront and stuff like that. So I don't think it's a big deal if they have like conflicting ideas about it. But at the very least, we can get an insight into what their thought processes are and stuff like that.
All I'm saying is, like, I don't like the conflicting info. That's all. I'd prefer if it was just one unified message. It just gives me vibes of the dark times. You know, it gives me vibes of trying to figure out what exactly the DRM strategy was for Xbox in 2013, and I'd read an interview from Phil Harrison, and he'd say one thing. I'd read an interview from Don Matrick, and he'd say something else. I'd read an interview from Phil Spencer, he'd say something else, and he didn't know what was really going on. Now, I know that is kind of like the worst case scenario, but I never want to have to revisit that ever again. You know, I want Xbox to just be like, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, this is the way forward, this is what's going on, etc., etc., etc. And
I like it because it gives me something to talk about.
Well, sure, it gives us something to talk about here. And it's something I also talked about before. It's like, choice. Microsoft always says, we're about choice. And it's like, are you really about choice if you're going to have an xCloud exclusive? Like, what if my choice is to not play it on streaming and play it on the console or PC? You're denying me choice, but your platform's all about choice. You know, we've talked about that before when it comes to PC games not coming to Xbox.
But this is the thing, though. xCloud is going to be on Xbox.
So, okay, so that's the other thing I was thinking. So, like, Will you be able to stream Xbox games to your Xbox?
You will be able to stream xCloud games to your Xbox. And one of the things they're actually exploring right now is letting you play the xCloud version of a game while you're installing the game. So if you're installing, say, The Outer Worlds 2, and it's 100 gigabytes, but you don't want to wait, you can start playing it via xCloud, and then when it's done, switch over to the local version.
Now that is an interesting implementation of like, hey, you went out and you bought this game at midnight from GameStop, and you bring it home, and then you're installing it, but obviously 100 gigabytes of data. Like, say this is for the Initiatives game, right?
You actually made a video on that feature this week, but you didn't even realize it.
Which video was that?
They added a button that lets you view a game that your friends are playing. That will be tied to xCloud soon. And like you'll be able to you'll be watching a stream on Mixer on your Xbox, and there'll be a button there that says try this game on xCloud, and you'll be able to try it on xCloud without having to even install it. You won't have to blow up your hard drive, stuff like that. If the game's available on xCloud, obviously. Like Microsoft still has to acquire those licenses, but xCloud's coming to Xbox too. So it won't be a case of you can only play this on your phone. It's going to be a case of it's just part of Game Pass, really. It's just going to be a system level feature. It's going to be on every Windows PC. It's going to be on every Xbox. It's going to be on every phone. iOS too. And it's just going to be like, this is just the thing now. If you want to try a game, you can just pull it down from xCloud and then install it natively.
I mean, that is an interesting implementation of it, but like the one that I wouldn't really ever see myself using that. However, I don't really here's the thing. I'm all digital at this point, right? I pre-order games the day before. So I'm not in a scenario where I'm waiting for a game to download because the game's already I have the game downloaded. I'm just waiting for it to unlock. However, there is something along say for instance, Remnant from the Ashes, a game I want to download from Game Pass, right? Which I did. So I start downloading it, but it's 50 gigabytes. So you're saying in the future, instead of me waiting the whole time to get that 50 gigabytes installed, I'll just be able to start playing it on my Xbox Scarlett while it's installing, and then once it's installed, it'll just kind of kick over to the installed version?
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty good implementation.
That's the other cool thing about xCloud that Stadia doesn't have is this. Well, Stadia does have it, but Stadia doesn't have local versions, and it doesn't have this sort of concept of save synchronicity between the local version and the cloud version. So if I've been playing Diablo 3 on my phone all day, when I'm traveling or something, that save will push to my Xbox locally. So there's no it's just the same version. It's just a different Xbox you're basically playing it on. But I don't know.
We have a question from AJ Sampson in the Super Chat, Jez, and it's a pretty interesting one. He says, hey, Rand and Jez, are Matt and Phil sharing the leadership roles, and that's what there is confusion? I mean, who is the sole leader at Xbox? Well, the sole leader at Xbox is Phil. He is the head of Xbox. What's his official title? Exec...
X-Dude. Head X-Dude.
Head X-Dude. But I mean, his title, he's the head of... He's the executive corporate vice president of gaming at Microsoft, I believe, right?
Well, it's Head X-Dude, man.
Head X-Dude, right? Okay.
Is the I don't know. I don't know what his job title is. Executive vice president? No. Executive something. I don't know. I should know that as a journalist. Why don't I know that, Rand?
I think it's executive. I think it's executive president of gaming at Microsoft. But he's in charge. Matt is in charge of studios, of Xbox Game Studios. And that would mean, Matt is in charge of the Initiative and the Coalition and 343 and all the studios they bought, as well as in charge of global publishing, right, Jez? So the deals with Ori and the Tell Me Why game from Dotnod, which is from Xbox Games Studios Publishing. that he's in charge of that. Obviously, like, Matt doesn't necessarily buy the studios. That would require Phil's checkbook, which would require him getting, like, the okay from Phil or from Satya and Amy Hood. But yeah, there's no cross wires there. So, like, Matt is probably looking and being like, yeah, I need to move from thinking about we need to acquire studios to getting these studios to deliver and execute on the vision that, you know, that we've agreed to and we've kind of set forth. Well, Phil is looking at, like, the overall viewpoint of Xbox in general, and he's like, you know what? I probably need to get a couple more studios. I really would like one here. So, you know, like, Matt Booty's, like, laser focused on what he needs to do and his job, where Phil's kind of like, you know what? I think we do need one more studio, and I'll give that to Matt and he can run it, right? I think that's more.
Yeah, pretty much.
More how, like, that works. What else?
I mean, they're just human, you know. There's like the plans are still ongoing, evolving. You know, it could be like they can't just sit there and say we won't acquire a studio, because imagine if a really good studio appeared on the market and it was between Microsoft and Amazon, you know, who were gonna get it. You know, it's ever basically. I think more maybe what Matt Booty was trying to emphasize was that they don't want to set a precedent where they're just non-stop acquisitions and people expect that of them in order for them to have a good show. Maybe. He's probably cognizant of that. Everyone's sort of like, acquire everything, you know. Buy EA and stuff like that. Do you remember those rumors?
Those rumors? I remember they were going to buy EA. I remember that rumor. Wasn't there another one they were supposed to buy too? Right? Yeah, Polygon. It was like buy EA. It was by Valve too, wasn't it? Wasn't that the other one?
Bethesda?
And Bethesda. Well, do you remember when the No was like, hey, Microsoft is buying Silent Hills for $1 billion?
Oh my god!
It makes you wonder sometimes. It's like make sure you always, like, I don't know, like, look at the sources. You know, obviously, you know, you trust who you trust. But, like, I remember when the No was like, yeah, Microsoft is buying Silent Hills for $1 billion. I'm like, there's no way in hell that is actually gonna happen. Like, if that's true, Phil should probably not have his job if he's spending $1 billion on Silent Hill. I mean, come on,
$1 billion on a horror
right?
Game, you never make that money back. You would never ever make that money back.
I know, and people were like, Microsoft just spent $2.4 billion on Minecraft. They're never gonna make that money back, right? But then look at what Minecraft became.
Oh yes.
Today, Jez, I don't know if you saw this, but Xbox tweeted it out, and a few other people at Xbox, and I saw Tom Warren tweet it out as well, which got some people thinking. November 22nd is the anniversary of the Xbox 360 and Xbox One. So, Tom Warren said, hey, November 22nd, 2020 could be important. Do you think they're teasing potentially the release date of Scarlett with this stuff, or is this just a celebration of just Xbox in general?
I think so. I think, like, Microsoft likes doing those sort of little things. If it lines up nicely, I think they'd probably aim for November 22nd.
See, November 22nd next year is on a Sunday.
Oh,
I would go out on a limb and say there's no way that system's coming out on a Sunday. Absolutely no way.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
So, I don't know. Like, I'm looking at next year. I'm looking at November.
Maybe the Friday before then.
So the Friday before. So you bring up November. So Black Friday falls on the 27th next year. The 20. So you would say the 13th, or no, the 20th. So you think November 20th would be the date, the week before Black Friday.
November 20th would probably be a good date.
I could see that. I think it's either
Friday deal the week after.
I think it's either the 6th, the 13th, or the 20th. I think it's one of those three dates. I think it's on the Friday. And one of those dates is also going to be the same day as the PlayStation 5. I think the Xbox Scarlett and the PS5 are going to launch within a week of each other. So if PS5 launches on the 6th, Scarlett's going to be on the 13th. If Scarlett's the 13th and PS5's not out yet, then PS5's the 20th. It's definitely they're going to be spread out by a week, and it's going to be on a Friday in November. I can't imagine it being any other time. I guess there's a possibility it could be a Tuesday, but I think looking at their past couple of releases, it's always on a Friday. So it's either the 6th, the 13th, or the 20th.
It's because, like, globally, products tend to launch on a Friday. But in America, you do Tuesday for some reason. Why is that?
I remember... So I think that's I remember Michael Pachter talking about this. He says it's a holdover from... I forget what it was. It was like a holdover for some sort... It was a holdover... God, I forget what it...
Fucking Day or something?
It was like for movies or for music or something where it was like Tuesday was the day because that was how long it took them to get the packages in the mail. And then it just kind of became the day. And even as you progressed, like retail just kind of stood by that day. But now you obviously start seeing more and more things come out on Fridays, which I think is probably the right. I think I like more the games that come out on Fridays than I do on Tuesdays because Friday's the weekend. You could spend a lot more time with it. Tuesdays, especially during the week, not so much. So I actually prefer when stuff comes out on a Friday.
It just makes more sense.
Yeah, and SubZedX in chat says it's for the movies holdover for like the movies and stuff like that.
All right.
So Jez, did you see the other meme that happened yesterday with the Cybertruck? Cybertruck. What's his name?
Cool,
Tesla. Right? Tesla and God help me out. What's the guy's name? Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
He launched a new.
What a character.
They launched a new truck and a new car, which is now it's a truck. It's called the Cybertruck. I honestly can't believe they let him make this, Jazz. It looks awful.
I want to hear people. I want to hear from people in chat. What do you think the way the Cybertruck looks? If you haven't seen it, just go and quickly Google Cybertruck and have a look.
Look at all the memes.
I ran a poll on my Twitter. Do you like the Cybertruck? Hideous or gorgeous? It's 50-50 after like thousands of votes. 50-50. Like it to say this truck is polarizing is like an understatement. Like some people love it. Like I've seen so many Microsoft people who've gone out and bought them already or pre-ordered them.
Yeah, they do. They do love their Teslas at Xbox.
Aaron Greenberg's pre-ordered one. The head of xCloud, Bill Stillwell's pre-ordered one. I've seen a bunch of people who've pre-ordered them.
I mean, I don't understand. I don't. It visually it looks like ass. It looks like ass. I don't like. It looks horrible. It's one of the least visually appealing like trucks, cars, or whatever I've ever seen in my life.
It looks like it came out of. It looks like it's from some future TV show or something. I've seen one of my favorite comparisons, and people say it's got like a low polygon count. Or,
yeah, no, like it's a PlayStation 1 car or something. Yeah,
it's like PlayStation 1 car or something. Yeah,
I don't.
But it has really. This is so weird talking about cars because I'm not someone who really cares about cars. I don't even have a driver's license, but like you have to be kind of impressed by the specs. It can like beat a Porsche 911 in the drag race. It can tow 14,000 pounds. It's 38,000, and it gets 500 miles on a single charge.
I mean,
that's pretty good, right, for a pickup truck, from what but it looks it's stainless steel, and it looks very strange.
It looks strange, like when you see like a really nice car, like any of the Ferraris or any of those like really like in real life. I'm not talking about like Forza Horizon or whatever, right? You look at that and you're like, oh my god, I would love to have that. It looks so cool. Like you see pictures of it and stuff. You're like, oh man. But then I saw the picture of that and I'm like, I wouldn't drive that if it was free. If Elon Musk dropped it off at my house and handed me over the keys, I would never use it because I wouldn't want to be seen dead driving that around. Number one, people would be looking at you all over the place. So you imagine driving that around in like a suburb of something where like obviously like not a lot of people have Tesla cars here. I mean, there are some, but not that many. Like all the eyes would be on you, and they think you'd have no taste. Like this guy must have no taste. Look at the car he bought.
Or they think, wow, that guy is such a rebel. He doesn't care what anyone thinks.
Yeah, I don't know.
They might think, well, what a badass.
What a badass! I don't think they would think that, Jez. They just think you just got money to burn and you have no taste whatsoever.
I can't. Everyone, like, because we had a few people from like our team at the show, like Android Central went out there. Android Central covers a lot of like random tech sometimes, and they had a few people at the show, and they were all saying like, oh, it was trolling. This is a troll. This is a fake car. It's a joke. It's a prop. And the longer it went on, they started to realize that they were serious. They're serious about this thing. They are absolutely dead serious about it. But like the people who they've driven them, they're saying it was good. They and like people are saying in chat, where's the truck part? Well, the back sort of flips up and it has like this huge bed in it. It's got 100 cubic feet of exterior for in the underbed, and it can tow 14,000 pounds. And there's all these concept images of like futuristic like tow storage, and there's like a futuristic quad bike docked in the back, and a futuristic like tent that you can put in it and have 2 sleeping bags and like go camping and stuff with like a futuristic barbecue. It's crazy, man. I don't drive, and I don't know anything about cars, but I really want this car to succeed. I want to see them on the road. I want to see them on the road, man. They just look crazy. I really want to. Nine Life says, ran that truck.
I know, right? I love reading the comments. Brian Wright says, if you drive that car, you're packing at least 10 inches.
The memes about this car are incredible.
I mean,
like I can't remember the last time a car turned into an instant meme.
Well, it's like I'm almost impressed that somehow he was able to get that thing greenlit. It's impressive in that regard. Like a car that looks like that, and he's like, just able to push it through and be like, yeah, this is something we're putting out. Like
isn't even road safe. Is it like have they tested this for like impacts and stuff like that? Because like cars are designed to crumple when they crash, right? Like, is that thing gonna like with all the jagged edges and stuff? Well, I'm thinking like, wouldn't that just fold and cut someone?
Yeah, a lot of questions. But we had to talk about that because I just thought it. Stupid Discord.
Crash.
I gotta say though, Jez, your Windows Central Gaming had a great tweet where they basically turned it into a Halo Warthog.
Oh, that actually wasn't me. It was
You stole it from somebody. Uh-oh. Jez is having some real issues with Discord, I think. So
I am indeed. Nah, someone linked it to me, and then I posted it, and then I credited them, but then the person that I took it from, even they didn't make it. So then it was just memes.
So nobody knows who make it, but yeah, we had to talk about that because just of how like memey it was, like because Jez was like, "Oh, do you want to talk about this?" I'm like, "Absolutely," but I also want to talk about BioWare really quickly because they're supposedly working on new Mass Effect, right, Jez?
Yes.
And maybe not as important, but people were curious on if basically EA was letting Anthem, to leaving it to die. But no, that's not the case. Apparently BioWare is neck deep in reimagining the game or completely fixing the game, or they're going to do a complete relaunch of it. Do you think...
Yeah, it does sound like, and I've heard this too, it does sound like that Anthem's going to get some form of reboot. Like they're called Anthem Next, kind of like what they did with No Man's Sky or Final Fantasy 14 Realm Reborn. Because Final Fantasy 14 launched in such a state, it was awful. It was terrible, you know. And they basically like said, okay, we admit our mistakes, we're gonna fix it, and they went away for like a year or two and re-released it as Final Fantasy 14 Realm Reborn. And it was like it was literally a completely different game, and we had the same thing happen with No Man's Sky. So, and the thing about Anthem, Rand, I played quite a lot of Anthem, and it had a lot of things right. Like the flying was great, the combat again was great, like Mass Effect Andromeda. A lot of those combat mechanics down really well, and the visuals were awesome. And when it didn't crash or lag or whatever, but oof, it wasn't. It had no depth, I guess, is what I want to say. Like the end game gameplay loop just wasn't there. They very rapidly started missing all their promises on season stuff and DLC, and it just sort of fell off the wagon, and most people quit and stuff like that. There's like a small core of active players, like always on the subreddit, and there's a lot of hope that it can survive, maybe. But I think I'm interested to see if they can turn it around, especially because I really like BioWare and I want them to succeed. I really want them to bounce back. I want to see Mass Effect come back to life and be as good as Mass Effect 2 and 3. I want to see Dragon Age 4 really nail it and be a really great game. And I really want to see Anthem sort of become a good game, you know. I really, really do. And like after Jedi Fallen Order, and after like even the new Need for Speed like has no in-game monetization, no microtransactions, stuff like that. It does feel like EA is going to have a couple of years where they invest in trying to turn around their image, and EA does this, Rand. I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but like they go through these periods where the shareholders get greedy and start demanding everything becomes FIFA, realize that's a mistake, and then EA tries to bring it back around, and then they get greedy again, and then it goes in this like cycle.
Yeah, and then
Like that's what happened with like
then Ubisoft had the same problem. Like all their games became the same, and then Breakpoint
yeah,
basically bombs, and now they're like, "Oh man, we need to change our products."
yeah.
Right?
You can Dead Space is a great way to chart this. Like Dead Space 1 was like when Dead Space 1 came out, I was like, wow, I can't believe EA's made this. It's like it's quite far out of their comfort zone. And they made like Mirror's Edge and Dante's Inferno and stuff like that. And I thought like, wow, EA's putting out some really decent quality single player games at the moment. Dead Space 2 had a tacked on multiplayer mode. And I was kind of like, don't think Dead Space 2 really needs a multiplayer mode, but fine, as long as the main story mode was okay. And Dead Space 2 was still pretty good, like the campaign. And then Dead Space 3 came out, which was like when they went full greed mode and made the whole game multiplayer. And they had this like microtransaction crafting system, and it was just like, ugh, what are you doing, EA? And that basically killed the whole franchise, killed it dead.
Yeah.
And it really depresses me. So like BioWare's sort of in this sort of Dead Space 3 period right now, where EA sucked the life out of them. But then, unlike Dead Space, BioWare's too valuable to give up right now. So hopefully I'm gonna let them turn it around. And it's kind of like Star Wars. Like Star Wars Battlefront 2 was such a huge controversy when it came out, like all those microtransaction stuff. And now it's a really good game. Like they've invested in it heavily. The community is really happy. Like if you go on the Battlefront 2 subreddit, like everyone's like satisfied with the game and just celebrating the content they get. And it's had tons of free stuff added to that game. And the monetization isn't like it's less aggressive than Gears 5, for God's sake. And this is EA. And I feel like they're delivering value for that monetization. So I'm hoping that we'll at least get a few good games out of BioWare before things go bad. And like Aquaman says in chat, but Respawn's really been showing the way for EA. How like they can make good games, still make money without pissing off their fans and stuff like that. So maybe we have Respawn to thank for all of
And maybe we do.
this. Maybe we do.
Yeah. I mean, what I want from EA regarding all this stuff is like, sure, make a new Mass Effect, but before you do that, why don't you remaster the trilogy for next generation? Since you didn't bother doing it for this gen. And while you're at it, why don't you remaster Dead Space 1 and 2 for next gen? I'd appreciate that. Maybe
And
that
remake 3.
and remake 3. You want to
Remake.
remake 3. I think people would they would be really happy with that gesture, and then you could kind of start building hype around Mass Effect again for when that eventually the next game comes out. But you need to kind of do the legwork first, and make those games look and run great on the Scarlett and PS5. That's what I want, and so. But like moving on from that, because we're probably gonna be on the show in a minute, because Jez is tired. But Resident Evil 3 remake kind of confirmed for next year. Spawn Wave.
Yes.
I mean, I think we all knew this was coming after the success of Resident Evil 2 itself.
Definitely.
Although I'm a little surprised it's supposed to be dropping next year. Although I wouldn't be surprised if it got delayed.
I'm not surprised, and I'll tell you why. Because Resident Evil, the turnaround from Resident Evil 2 to 3 was also very quick. And it's because they reused a lot of the assets. Like most of Resident Evil, well, not most, but a lot of Resident Evil 3 takes place in the police station, and they've already finished modeling that. So like a huge chunk of the game is already finished for Resident Evil 3. And they've got all the zombie models already. They've got a lot of the monster models, and they can just reuse those, which is what they did in Resident Evil 3 anyway. So, like, basically, they just have to make the Raccoon City areas from Resident Evil 3. They have to make, like, the clock tower area and the water treatment plant and the hospital and stuff like that. And so the turnaround could have been pretty quick, considering they had a lot of those assets and systems already in place. And I'm okay with that, because Resident Evil 2 and 3 are, like, two of my favorite games of all time. And if they can get Resident Evil 3 high quality and not rushed, but still good next year, I'm going to be so amazed. Capcom have been absolutely killing it lately.
Yeah,
like Capcom had their like a few years of being EA-ish, where they're like, Resident Evil 6 was like all this multiplayer stuff nobody asked for, and but now Capcom's having this like glorious renaissance, where they've released so many high quality games and delighting their fans with these remakes. I'm loving it personally.
Weren't you upset that Monster Hunter World wasn't nominated for Best Ongoing Game at the Game Awards?
I thought it was just cringe that they didn't nominate it, but it just goes to show like how Monster Hunter's still probably like a niche sort of game, and I know this because I know when game journalists aren't playing games, because we get a lot of traffic on them. Because they're not competing with us on the SEO. So if like IGN and Polygon and GameSpot and stuff, who have high Google ranking, if they aren't covering a game, we get the search traffic, because we're like sort of like a second tier, I guess, in Google. And like we did really good traffic Monster Hunter World, which means that other sites weren't covering as much. So I think it's just a case of maybe a lot of those people just don't play it and stuff. And it's like, I know Monster Hunter isn't niche, and it sold really well, but I think like it still sort of occupies that sort of more hardcore gamer realm, because it's like, it's not for everyone, maybe. I don't know. But Monster Hunter World definitely should have been nominated for Best Ongoing Game, because I think Monster Hunter World Iceborne is the greatest expansion of all time.
Hmm. So when do you think it's going to drop? End of the year? Because I can't see it dropping beginning of the year, like early 2020, like Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 2 did.
Yeah, I would.
So it'd have to be end of the year, right?
I think they can drop. They can put Resident Evil 3 right in the AAA game releases in the fall, because everyone knows Nemesis. Nemesis is going to be an amazing marketing tool.
Stars, right?
Yeah, stars. Everyone knows Nemesis. And everyone believes everyone believes that Resident Evil 3 will be a good game because Resident Evil 2 was so good and is deserving of like Game of the Year award nominations and stuff like that. So, damn, I really, really hyped for that. And Rand. After Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, we need a Dino Crisis remake.
Yeah, and people have been pushing for that for some time, and I agree with you. They should remake that. And you know what? Next gen's here. I think it's a perfect time to remake Dino Crisis.
They've even got the dinosaur assets, man. They could just flip an Anjanath from Monster Hunter World, reskin it as a T-Rex, and I'd be happy. You know, they've got dinosaur assets, you know, coming out of their ears from Monster Hunter. So just flip those skeletons into Dino Crisis and let's go.
So Jackman has a question first. He says, do you think we'll get more Game Pass announcements at the Game Awards? I don't think so. I think you'll get the gameplay reveal of Ori. Well, not like it's a reveal, but a world premiere. Probably same thing for Gears Tactics. And I would not be surprised if you saw something else from Xbox there.
World premiere.
Exclusive. Jez, I also want to ask you about the whole... there was a couple articles I saw that basically said that still PlayStation 5 slightly more powerful than Scarlett, but also that PlayStation 5's game performance is better, or at least the dev kits are more mature. So currently it seems that the PlayStation 5 has more mature set of tools. So the games are currently running better than Scarlett. Did you see any of those reports?
I did see these rumors, but I don't put a lot of faith in them because, you know, I haven't seen any physical evidence. Show me a document or a benchmark. Until they've some of those, until Digital Foundry gets their hands on it, I ain't gonna believe anything that comes off a forum from someone looking for a bit of clout. You know?
So basically, you're saying wait for because it all basically is coming from one dude on Reset Era who says he knows everything about both systems.
If it's true, it might well be true. You know, like we've already got like PS5 patents and leaked renders and stuff like that, and it may well be true that PlayStation 5 has more mature dev tools and stuff like that. But I don't know why people are freaking out a year in advance of the system's launching, because it won't matter until consumers get it in their hands and Digital Foundry does their analysis and you know, gives us that evidence. You know.
Well, I mean, also price matters. I think price matters more than power. Quite frankly, like, so I don't know. Well, you have to see. Like, who knows? Is it possible PlayStation 5 to be more powerful than Scarlett? Yeah, sure. Is it possible that Scarlett's more powerful than PlayStation 5? Yeah, sure. It's just like, you only really kind of see, and it's always kind of the same thing, like, oh, it's just slightly more powerful. It's just a little bit, like, and it's always just like one guy. And these websites always just kind of reference this one dude.
I tell you, there's two reasons they do it, right? First of all, they do it because it lets them get the keyword PlayStation 5 into Google search engines. So any rumor is worth covering because when it comes to the launch, they'll have a better search ranking. So that's why they cover those rumors. And B, they cover those rumors because people are looking for those rumors. People like reading rumors, especially console warriors who, you know, they want to freak out about it and stuff like that and that sort of thing. So, you know, it is what it is. There's no point freaking out until Digital Foundry's done their analysis. Digital Foundry is like literally the only source that I trust on this stuff. So, oh well.
So Jez, let me ask you this question: do you believe power matters more than price, or is price the most important?
To the mass market, I think price matters more. To the Twitter warriors, I think power matters more.
Oh, of course. For the hardcore fans, power matters clearly more than price. But if you want to talk about mass market stuff, I don't think little Timmy out there who's playing Fortnite gives us a shit about power. You know what I mean?
Why is his name Timmy?
I'm just saying, like, I just
Timmy?
I think I've always said that. And I don't even think little Timmy gives a flying fuck about God of War or Death Stranding either. I don't think he cares about Halo or Gears. I think for a lot of people, it's people get consoles for many different reasons. Hardcore, they get it for what are you offering me exclusive wise, and Sony has these games they offer, and Microsoft has these. Okay, what's the power level here? All right, what's the price level?
Next gen. I tell you what will sell more systems than anything. Next gen is if they both have the same price and the same power, it's whoever has the marketing rights to Call of Duty will sell more.
I don't think that matters.
With the normies, I think.
I mean, the Xbox One. So Ermi says, "I stand by Rand's statement from many months ago. The Xbox One X needs to come down in price. It absolutely does, and it's still $500. I know it's going to be on sale for $350, but it's too expensive. It's way too expensive. Like all the hardcore bought the X already. Like who are you selling that to at $500 now? Nobody. Price. I don't know. Like you, obviously." I think price is more important when you talk about mass market and people who aren't hardcore gamers, and you're talking about like the semi-casuals and the casuals. Like it matters more to them where their friends are, what the price of the system is. Well, the people listening to the show here, what matters more? Yeah, power, the exclusive games. You know, everybody gets into gaming for different things. So like to put like a blanket statement on everything, not always the smartest idea. I mean, power and price both matter. So I just think, in the long run, I think the PlayStation 4 did better than the Xbox because it had both categories won. It had power and it had price. And then eventually it added games.
But, like, I'm talking about people who, like, normal people who might be looking for a reason to upgrade.
Little Timmy.
You know. Little Timmy.
Little Timmy.
Little Timmy won't upgrade his Xbox One to play Fortnite. But, like, his dad might upgrade to play Call of Duty and, you know, FIFA and stuff like that.
And Megatron brings up a good point. He says, but the parents of little Timmy are being told by a sales rep that PS5 is more powerful, so I think it matters. I mean, there is always a bit of that about, like, sales reps saying something and trying to change people's minds. Although I don't know if that often happens, because usually it's not like the kid's like, give me a game system, and it's like, well, what do you want, PlayStation or Xbox? It's like, hey, get me this game system because I want to play with my friends, and he has a PlayStation, so you get a PlayStation, or he's an Xbox, so you get him an Xbox, you know? But like, I don't know, that's kind of the way I see it. But either way,
yeah, it's all up in the air is ultimately the message.
Either way, I think we're gonna end the show there. Hit us up with any questions if you have any. Me and Jez will answer them, as Jez is getting a little bit tired because it's a little late here on a Friday. We appreciate everyone being here. The show will be up on iTunes and Spotify probably tomorrow or the next day. We are trying to get that out, like usually like a day later for everybody who's listening to this on the podcast services. We appreciate it. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, follow Jez and myself on Twitter, especially if you want Pokemon updates. I'm sure Jez will be retweeting the misery that I will be experiencing. So
I'll be loving it. Everyone in chat's building up a personal profile of Timmy. Yeah. Timmy doesn't give a damn. Timmy likes Legos more than games. I don't know. How young is Timmy?
I don't know. 14, 13, I don't know. Ermi wants to know, Jez, is keyboard and mouse on console pretty much done?
Ermi. Is keyboard and mouse console pretty much done? No, they're not done. They're not done with it. It's just on their to-do list and not a huge priority right now. They do want to do it because they do want to get Age of Empires onto console, and doing it with a controller is not viable. So, yes, they will be working on mouse and keyboard stuff for Xbox. It's just not a huge priority at the moment, I think.
Clouds ago, I know I said this completely wrong. Clo, he says, Jez, have you heard rumors of Microsoft and Nintendo working on something new? Because there are more rumors floating around. Maybe a Master Chief Collection.
For Switch?
I would imagine. Yeah. I mean, that rumor's kind of been out there for a while.
I keep hearing things about Nintendo, like Banjo coming to Switch and stuff like that, and who knows? Like Nintendo is like down the street from Nintendo of America is down the street from Microsoft HQ. I'm sure like Phil meets up with the team there to explore potential collaborations all the time. You know, it's could be. I can see the rare replay collection hitting the Switch, for example. There's a lot of like nostalgia amongst hardcore Nintendo fans for, those classic rare games that Rand loves. Oh, Rand!
Hmm.
That's what I could make you play. I could force you to complete Battletoads next time.
No, no, no. We're done doing this. We're done. We're done doing this. Pokemon was your one thing.
Oh, but I had a logo made and everything. This is an annual thing,
We'll see.
maybe.
It's not. I actually played Battletoads though. It worked for Pokemon because I'd never played Pokemon before. I played the original Battletoads.
What about? Oh, sorry. What about Banjo?
I've never played Banjo.
Okay, there we go.
So you
Nah,
make me
okay.
play Banjo 3, the new one when
You
it
don't
gets
play World
announced?
of Warcraft?
I've never played World of War. I'm not playing World of Warcraft. I don't care. I will fight you on that. I don't care that it's for charity. I will not play. I'm not playing. I don't want to play gaming on my PC. And like Carl says, Rand will
Oh
quit
wow.
gaming before this comes a regular thing. You're damn right I will. I will be done. I will be like, no, I'm done gaming. Podcast is over. My channel's being shut down. Um, I don't want to do any of this stuff. So,
Yeah.
less less rim ma 88 says, will Scarlett have 360 back compat day one?
Yes.
I would assume so. I would assume back compat will be there day one.
Yes.
For Xbox One titles, Xbox 360, and OG Xbox, like whatever ones are currently back compat in the one.
Every single game that works on your Xbox One will work on Scarlett day one.
That sounds pretty good.
It
Do you
does
think
to
there's
me.
going to be any inherent enhancements to the Xbox One games, like there were for like the OG Xbox games? Like they were like up-resed and all that stuff, and even some of the
I
360
think
games.
I think games with unlocked frame rates like Monster Hunter, for example, Monster Hunter World is like so annoying with its like optimizations, shall we say. See, I'm really getting tired now, I'm slurring my words. But it's like it has a performance mode where it like bumps down the resolution, but you still can't get a solid 60 frames out of it. Like the environments are too complicated and detailed and stuff like that. So like it's sort of unlocked and it flips between 60 and it can go down all the way to 30. If you're fighting like a Zinogre who sprays like lightning all over the place, it can get really laggy. So I reckon Scarlet will be able to, get more frames out of those games that have unlocked resolution and unlocked frame rates. But um, games that have hard locked resolution would have to be patched, probably.
Yeah. And Ben Gilbert, aka DOA, says, "Love the Pokemon Rand, love it. I'm not gonna love that game, DOA. Stop it. Go enjoy your movie." Let's see.
Pokemon.
Jackman says, "Thanks, Jez, for being so awesome. You guys are both awesome. Appreciate your podcast a lot. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for the kind words."
You're right. You're breathtaking.
Megatron says, "Little Timmy, aka Megatron, will donate money if Rand plays WoW." Oh my God, we're not starting this. We're not starting this. I'm not playing World of Warcraft.
Ooh.
I mean, I guess that's the one that kind of fits because I've never played it before, and I've only played Warcraft 2. So,
You played Warcraft. Even though I haven't played
but I
Warcraft.
mean,
2.
like Pokemon's 20 hours. Like, isn't World of Warcraft like your life? You know what I mean?
Rand, I think we need to get you on World of Warcraft next year.
No, this isn't happening.
When Shadowlands comes out, me and you, Rand, we're gonna play Warcraft.
We're not playing Warcraft.
We're gonna play. I'm gonna get Mikey Barr involved because he's at Blizzard now. Me, you, and Mike, we're gonna play some Warcraft next year.
That's not Mike. No, because I won't know what I'm doing, and Mike wouldn't have time for a noob like me in Warcraft.
And we'll see. We'll see.
No, I know Mike. He wouldn't. He would not put up with that.
If I said to Mike it's to annoy Rand, he might do it.
No, he wouldn't. He'd be like,
We'll
I don't
see.
want to play with that nub.
We'll see. We'll see, man.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that's it. That's all the
First
questions I
first
see.
of all, before we go,
Yes, yes.
everyone in chat, tell me your favorite Pokemon as we're doing the outro.
Okay,
I wanna know.
Jez wants to know your guys' favorite Pokemon as we do the outro to the show. So, once again, I want to thank everybody for being here. If you're listening to this later on the podcast app, we appreciate you as well. Follow me and Jez on Twitter if you want to hear more updates about Pokemon. I will be probably taking some screenshots and tweeting it, maybe even doing some capturing maybe 30 seconds of some battles or something and posting them up on Twitter. Jez is probably going to retweet the donation link. I think we raised so far like $320, which Jez will match up to $300. So we've raised like $600. So all for a good cause. Making me hate my life, but hey, the kids get what they need for Gamers Outreach. So hit the like button, subscribe, and we will see you on Wednesday next week, right, Jez? Wednesday next week for another podcast, because we don't want to do one. Obviously, Thanksgiving is a no-go, and Friday we can't do it. And we do have one more question from JD Gamer. For the super chat, it says, "Do you think Microsoft is sandbagging with power and price?"
What does that mean?
I'm not exactly sure. I mean, Phil. I did a video where Phil said basically that they're not going to be like, they're going to be there with power and price. That they learned a lot of their lessons.
Urban Dictionary.
So, they said they're going to learn their lessons, right? They learned their lesson with the one. It's a pretty hard position to be underpowered and overpriced. So, I expect both systems to be comparable, like basically the same, and I expect them both to have the same price. Like they'll both be 500, or they'll both be 400, and they'll virtually be the same exact machine. And it's at that point, it just comes down to who's got the better games and who's got the better content and who's got the better services, and that's what it'll come down to.
Sandbagging means like holding back.
It was not like we know the PlayStation 5 price or power. I think more people know about the PlayStation 5 because I think it's the dev kits have been out there longer, and I think the Scarlett dev kits are just getting out there. I don't think they're intentionally holding back. It's just like this is the production scale of it, and it's just like they finally got them finished or whatever. I don't think they're intentionally sandbagging it. So.
A lot of people in chat like Jigglypuff.
Jigglypuff. Okay.
Jigglypuff's not even.
The only one I know is Pikachu.
Do you not know any other Pokemon?
No, I only know Pikachu.
Do you know Charizard?
No, who's Charizard?
You've never heard the word Charizard.
I've heard the word Charizard, and I've heard that it's a Pokemon. Same thing like I've heard Jigglypuff is a Pokemon, but I don't have like a visual image of what they are. Like Pikachu, I know and I see. Okay, is Charizard the dragon that spits fire?
He's technically not a dragon.
He's not a dragon, but he spits fire.
Yeah, he spits fire.
Okay, maybe I've seen that. And Jigglypuff, is he like pink with a little like kind of like swirl top? Like
yes.
kind of okay, I may have seen Jigglypuff then. But I know. Can I pick Pikachu? Can Pikachu be my guy?
I think you can. Yeah, you can. You have to find one though, and I haven't actually found one in this game yet.
Anyways.
Oh god! But when you pick your starter, tweet it out. We all want to see it. But thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody. We will see you on Wednesday. Have a good week and keep it gaming. Later.